Hi, welcome to Conversations with Chike Evans. Special guest today is Mr. Ashley Scott. Just waiting for him to come into the room. Having some technical difficulty, people. I am so sorry.
All right.
There we go.
Is it, there we go. Thank God. All right.
How are you?
I'm good, man. How's it going?
I'm doing all right.
Thanks for having me on. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it has.
Just trying to get this camera right. Cool.
Yeah, I don't want the top of your head
Yeah,
cut off.
I know. I'm trying to get this right. Okay, there we go. There we go. All right. Cool.
So I was doing some research, and the last time that I talked to you was 11 years ago.
Yeah, I remember that moment. We did the sit down in person interview and good
Yeah,
technology now.
that was at your studio.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that.
Do you remember? And what I couldn't remember is where we met. Do you remember where we met?
I want to say an event somewhere in Philly.
And it,
Was it?
I'm sure that's probably true, but I just couldn't.
I
I
can't
couldn't remember
remember
the
either.
origin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can't remember either. It's been a minute though. It's been
but
a
I
long
do
time.
remember the last time that I saw you in person. The last time I saw you in person was backstage at Diva Simply Singing, and you asked me to introduce you to Faye.
Ah,
Do you remember that?
right. Yes. Well, and that was the second time I met her.
Okay.
I'd actually I met her at the Grammys in 2014. And so
Okay.
and she's a person that has a great memory because she said that she was looking at me that day, and
Hmm.
that was 2015. So no, that was 2015 when that the second time I met her with you when you
Okay.
introduced me, and she
Yeah.
she said I recognize your face, I just couldn't remember your name, and
Yeah. She's good for
where
faces.
did we
She
met?
remembers faces very well.
Yeah,
So, brother, what's going on with
yes
you?
sir.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. In a good creative place, just releasing some new music. I put out a new record about a week ago, on
Okay.
my website, as well as hitting all the streaming platforms. And I kind of dived into the jazz roots a little bit,
Okay.
over the course of time during the pandemic when everybody was living on Clubhouse. Um, you know, that was a good time. I mean, bad time for
Right.
pandemic, but Clubhouse was a good outlet to connect with people. And
Hmm.
people started playing music in certain rooms, and it I went into a couple jazz rooms, and it just made me fall in love with jazz all over again. I used to sing it in college, but I don't do it as much anymore. Not performing in the private sector as I do, and I'll say private sector, but in the wedding side of things, you have to do like "Fly Me to the Moon" and "The Way You Look Tonight," but you
Hmm.
don't do a lot. You don't go that much deeper than that. And so, I was hearing records I hadn't heard in a long time in those rooms, and I was like, okay, I think I want to do a jazz record. And I came up with this bass line for the song, and the bass line became the melody, and I was intentional about writing something to salute our women because no disrespect to anyone else's genre or freedom of speech, but everything on the radio is a nighttime streetwalker or garden tool.
Yeah.
And so, what I'm saying, I just wanted to kind of come back with something more positive in the most one of the most, free spirited forms of our music, which is jazz. And so I created Beautifully Made, and the video is a slideshow. It's available on my YouTube channel. And it's a slideshow of iconic women that I admire.
Okay. All right. So you kind of jumped ahead to where I wanted to go because you gave me the
Sorry.
now. Let's go back to
Sorry.
the beginning. Let's go
Okay.
all the way back to when you were inspired to even be in music. Let's go back to there. How old
Okay.
were
So
you?
the very beginning,
Where are you? What's inspiring you?
I,
What's
I was three
in
years old.
fashion?
I was 3 years old, and my parents were always going over to my aunt's house, and at the time, or still during this time, currently. But my aunt is a member of the recording of the singing group known as the Three Degrees,
Mhm.
and so during that time, I was a young kid, and grown-ups and go would go have their talks, and they put the kid in the
Wait, I'm
room.
sorry. I'm sorry. Can we pause and mention your mom's name because she's a legend. She deserves to have her name
Yes.
mentioned.
I'm sorry, yeah. My aunt, her name is Helen Scott, and she's one of the Three Degrees. The group is most known for the song When Will I See You Again, as well as the Soul Train theme, TSOP, The Sound of Philadelphia. And they
Mhm.
had other strings of hits, but those songs primarily charted in other countries. They were part of the Sound of Philadelphia, and they went through the disco era as well, working with a guy by the name of Giorgio Moroder, who produced all of Donna Summer's stuff. And
Mhm.
at that time in the late 70s, they met then Prince Charles, and the British press uh, nicknamed them Charlie's Angels because he was one of their favorite groups.
Mhm.
And one of their songs, one of their disco songs, just had a resurgence on Spotify because about a year or so ago, they did a playlist with the King, and that
Mhm.
song was at the one of the top songs on the playlist.
Very
So
nice.
that song's called "Giving Up, Giving In." But they're still touring, and she's still a member,
Okay.
and they're the longest running female vocal trio in music history.
Very nice. Very nice. So you were going over her house, and what was happening?
I was saying videos of her performances, specifically a concert from 1979 at the Royal Albert Hall
Mm.
in England, backed by a 80-piece or 100-piece orchestra, the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, and it was a 45-minute concert, well, 3-hour concert chopped into 45 minutes for the BBC, and it became a BBC television program. So it's also on YouTube on their YouTube channel, and seeing that concert just mesmerized me with music and orchestration and performance, and she that became the introduction for music to me. My mom also grew up on the same block as the Delphonics in West Philly, so that was a whole other group that I fell in love with. And so those were, I would say, probably their songs and the Three Degree songs were the first songs I learned as a kid.
Wow.
Even probably over my ABCs, I was singing those songs, and I mean, the songs were great, the groups were great. It strengthened my ear for harmony, orchestration, arrangement. I learned a lot of cover songs through those groups because they not only had their originals, but they recorded covers. And so I probably knew cover songs of, before I found out who the original artists were on
Right.
certain songs. Like specifically, like if you go back to that concert at the Royal Albert Hall, they did an 8-minute long Lennon McCarthy Beatles medley. And
Wow.
so before I even heard the Beatles, I could sing that medley back and forth, just like it was their arrangement. And so if I would ever hear the original song, I'd go, "Oh, I know that one." So
Mhm.
yeah,
So you listening to music that way, that helped hone your ear for
yeah,
what you like, your
right,
style. Yeah.
definitely. And then I mean the music that my dad played around the house, Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind and Fire, Chicago. Of course, we went through our Michael and Prince phases and Luther phases, and transferred to the Babyface era with the
Mhm.
Bobby Brown and New Edition, and the 90s era as well, and then of course neo soul, and we're here now. So um it's
So
I
now, are you formally taught music? Did you actually study music?
yes, I got my degree in music from Howard University.
Okay.
And so
All
I
right.
learned under my vocal coach was a guy by the name of Grady Tate. He was probably the most recorded jazz drummer of all time,
Mm.
but he was a singer as well, and he recorded a few albums. And he played drums for everybody from Lena Horne to Count Basie, Frank Sinatra, and also Webster Lewis, who was a jazz pianist. Webster had 4 albums on Sony Records, and he also did a fifth album with Barry White with the Love Unlimited Orchestra because he was Barry White's conductor. And
Mm.
he also
Hmm.
produced a song. He produced a song called "Looking Up to You" on a artist out of New York named Michael Wyckoff. And that song became pretty big overseas for Michael, as well as here in the States in certain markets. And it was later sampled by Jeanne for Hey Mr. DJ.
Mm.
And my other professor was Kehembe Eichelberger, and she's still teaching. She's still a professor at Howard at this moment.
Wow. So, how old were you when you first performed in front of an audience, other than your family?
Uh, I would say school choirs
Okay.
and yeah, school choirs. From like fifth to eighth grade, and then church. Like my senior year of high school, did high school talent shows as well. I went to Parkway here in Philadelphia, um, and started performing in college. I joined the Howard Gospel Choir in college, and that was a huge influence because Howard has the gospel choir is probably the most sought out choir for gospel artists when they come to the DC market. If a major artist needs a choir in DC, they call Howard, and through that, I performed with Edwin and Walter Hawkins, Dorinda Clark of the Clark Sisters. Um, we did a government event back in the '90s, late '90s, for at the Department of Agriculture, and Bill Clinton was in attendance, and so we were there. I'd never been through that much security in my life, and we were there, and they told us, okay, you guys are here to minister as you do, but you're really here to be a distraction because it's going to be press here. And it was around the
Hmm.
time that he was going through the scandal with Monica Lewinsky. And so they said, all right, if somebody asks a question, just start singing. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, just be a diversion. And he came over and shook our hands, and it was an honor to meet him at that time.
Very nice. Very nice. At any point in time, uh, maybe I should ask a different question. Was there any point in time where you were blown away about what doors were opening up for you?
Hmm. Yes, I would say probably in the past 10 years or so. I also work on the business side of music.
Hmm.
So, um, about I, I worked with people like Marcus Johnson, and in 2014, I started working with Will Downing.
Hmm.
And that was a full circle moment because I actually met Will Downing when I was at Howard because Webster Lewis brought him to our class to lecture at that time.
Mm.
And so it was a full circle moment to kind of work for him on his business team. But, one day he said, hey, you want to come up and sing some background vocals on my record? And I was like, yes, sir. And so I've done some background on a few of his records and also worked on the business team of a few other artists like Najee.
Hmm.
And I'm good friends with Eric Roberson. We were friends at Howard together.
Hmm.
And also an artist named Frank McComb, who I've looked up to for a long time. And so I'm saying all that to say that those relationships have kind of prepared me for this moment that I'm in now because I'm currently Beautifully Made is just one of 8 songs that I'm going to be releasing
Okay.
very shortly on a project. And so most of the names that I just mentioned contributed to the project.
So describe for me what it's like to create a song from soup to nuts. Or do you have a formula or does it come to you in different ways?
It comes in different ways depending on the song. I've kind of been very intentional with my writing as of late. Like, say, Beautifully Made, I wanted to do something to kind of salute women, wanted to do a jazz tune. So I just kind of focused myself and energy in that space. Everything else has kind of just been trying to either come up with different ways to recycle topics, if you will. So, like for this
Hmm.
album that I'm working on, I have a duet that I would never released before. And so the inspiration came from Janet Jackson, Let's Wait a While. And
Mm.
she's like nobody's saying anything like that anymore, right? But
Right.
but also, okay, so how can we're also having a time where we're missing a duet. Duets are kind of few and far between. Not saying people don't do them, but they don't hit the mainstream, especially R&B, like they used to. And so
Right.
I try to write timeless songs. And so, the Time Life infomercials will have me up late at night watching them on TV, just singing those songs, because that's a goal as a songwriter. You want songs to kind of last through the test of time. And so, hey, I want my music to be on the 2060 collection. When they
Right.
talk about the early 2000s, I want my music to kind of go up on the screen as well.
Hmm.
So I came up, my friend Latrice and I, years ago, we wrote this song "Not Now," and it sounds like a classic soul duet. It's kind of, saying, it's not saying let's wait a while, and we're not taking the melody, but the title's called "Not Now." But it's about a couple kind of being on the same page versus one person just saying let's wait a while.
Right. Right.
And there's a song with on the project with Eric Roberson that he co-wrote it with me, and the 3 Degrees biggest song is "When Will I See You Again."
Hmm.
And one thing about that song is that every line in the song is a question. So I said, okay, let's write a question song. And every line in the song be a question. We didn't use the title, we didn't take the melody. And when I came up with a hook, to Eric, and we came up with the verses and the bridge. And basically, nowadays when you meet people, whether it's for business or personal, friendship or romance, it's like a job interview. It's like
Indeed.
and life is work. So it's like, what's your name? Where you from? Do you like me? Do you like I like you? Just always, you like this color? You like my hair long, short? It's just so many questions. So we just wrote a
Hmm.
question song.
So talk to me a little bit about the business side of things, because you are a composer, right? On the other end of things, when there's a payout on a song, the person that creates most of the song gets most of the money. That's normally how it works.
Correct.
So talk to me about the importance of ownership, and how important, as the young people say, having a pin game is in the game.
I think we're at a point now where no matter, not just music and entertainment, but no matter what you want to do in life, you have to educate yourself. And so having family that kind of came up of the time in the 60s and 70s, and the brands and the music still being active today, I learned very early that this was a business. The performance and the recording and the music aspect is great. The creativity is great, but if the business isn't right, you're going to spend not only a good dollar but a good amount of time trying to find the money, trying to rectify the situations that weren't handled when they should have been handled,
Mm.
or that were done in a wrong way or at the wrong time. Um, a lot of groups from that time are still in litigation over royalties and um, songwriters or performance royalties, trademark issues, things of that nature. So I think everybody needs to kind of educate themselves on the business. So if you're going in the studio to record a song, bring the split sheets, know who did what, record all the data of who played guitar, who played bass, who played drums, who played keys, who wrote the song, who did the vocals, who did the backgrounds. Did you do them all? Did you have people in there with you? Record all the information. Um, in terms of being a songwriter, however many people truly wrote the song, make sure those people are credited and those splits are correct.
Hmm.
And I say truly because there are different genres where I would go to the Grammys and the Song of the Year award has 20 writers on there. And it's like, okay, did they write ands, buts, and does? you know, or so, and no disrespect to anybody's, what they've done or what they contribute, but that's a lot of people. So just make sure you get your percentages correct and handle your business.
Yeah, and in the world of sampling, I mean, it's easy to rack up, the contributors on a song, because if a song has a sample on it, everyone that had anything to do with that original song is contributed as a songwriter on the new song. And that money has to be divvied amongst those. If you're doing it legally, those
Right.
people have to be compensated as well.
Yeah, and so that makes about 25 writers at this point because it used to be
Right,
five at
right.
max on the song back then. Now it's 20. So yeah, all of that has to be divvied up. I would definitely advise people to learn the correct processes and procedures of the industry. And and do things properly. One of my old mentors always said that life is about fire prevention versus firefighting. So
Mm,
in that, do it correctly. Don't sample anything if you can't afford it because it costs money to do so. And you
mm,
wouldn't want anyone to kind of steal from you and not pay you.
right.
I was I I knew some people a few years ago who I can give you like two scenarios. One where this one artist went and sampled at least made made one song, but took five different melodies into one song. Didn't credit, anyone. I'm not gonna say they didn't credit anyone, but they went out and said and performed said work and were doing interviews around said work. And some people advised me just to keep doing it that way. And I was like, don't tell people to do it the wrong way. Um, there was another group from the Pennsylvania area where they're, I understand that people sell beats and things of that nature online,
Hmm.
and they didn't really understand the business of it, and they went and spent all this money on a video, all this money for the beat, and they didn't have the exclusive license. So
Wow.
which means they did all that work, only could license it for 3 months, and then they had to take all that work down. So all the numbers that they wanted on streaming and YouTube and all that just went away. So
Question, because I don't know. This could be education for me because you would know. If someone, if that happens to someone, right, and they find themselves in litigation over um, stealing a song, is there a penalty to pay legally for that? I mean, other than being sued, is there a monetary penalty for it?
I don't know. That's a good question. I would instruct, anyone to kind of seek legal counsel
Yeah,
for things
yeah.
of that nature. And if you don't know an entertainment lawyer, go find one. There are in some cities there are organizations that do entertainment and arts legal work on a pro bono level or basis. So seek out it might be called volunteer lawyers for the arts. We have
Mm,
it here in Philadelphia, but there may be in other cities as well. So seek out counsel. But
yeah. Auntie
if you can't,
Deanna Williams always say, get a lawyer first. That's the first thing you do.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And I mean, look at sampling like going to the store. If you can't
Hmm.
afford it, don't do it. Don't buy it. You know what I mean? Don't try to
Hmm.
steal it and try to get things on the back end. That's not the way to do it because if you don't do it properly, they may not give you the permission to really do so.
Right, right. And there was one thing that I heard recently, and this is the on the cruel side of things. 50 Cent bought the rights to Ja Rule's music and then legally basically said that he couldn't perform them. And that's his livelihood. Those are his songs because he became popular off of them. But someone bought them and said you couldn't perform your life's work. That's crazy.
That's that's pretty cold blooded. Not much to kind of say on that one. I will say, well, no, he's got enough money to really stop people because there are. I'll say this in a different way. There are people out here doing tribute shows. It's a lot of tribute shows going on, and so
Hmm.
while you're technically not supposed to say I'm paying tribute to this person
Hmm.
without the permission of that person or their estate, people are still
Hmm.
doing it. And
Wow.
so it's and some people don't know that law, but that's the law. So it's hard to kind of stop everybody with so many people doing it in so many places.
Right.
So if Mr. Mr. Rule or Mr. Ja Rule, has a bunch of shows, it's hard to kind of stop people from singing certain songs on stage. You go to open mics all the time, and everybody sings the same stuff, you know, it's
Yeah.
going to happen somewhere.
Right. So talk to me about your work with the Grammys.
So I'm a member of the organization. I used to be on the board years ago, and one of the years I was actually vice president when Deanna Williams was president back
Mhm.
in 2016. So I'm still an active member of the organization. I participate in several programs that they have. One being Grammy U, and which is mentoring a college student who wants to enter the entertainment industry. So it's not necessarily an internship, but more so a mentorship. So I talk to the student here and there and kind of give them the best advice possible for what they want to do, and advising them on where they want to go and maybe trying to connect them with somebody that's in line with what they want.
Hmm. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure it probably wasn't the same program, but isn't that sort of how Mr. Albie Shore became popular because Quincy Jones kind of mentored him and kind of introduced him to the world that way? Because I do remember back in the day, because I was in college or maybe right before college when he came out, and I do remember it was an introduction through Quincy Jones in which I found Albie Shore.
It's possible. I don't know if Grammy U was the program. I don't even think Grammy U was around back then.
No, I would
Uh,
remember Grammy
yeah,
U. That's a catchy name. It wasn't
right.
that, but it was something similar.
Yeah,
Like he was his
I'm
mentor,
pretty.
and then he kind of introduced him.
I do remember those times a little bit, so I'm pretty sure that was the case from him. I forget how I'll Be Sure came out. I do remember when he came out, and of course I remember the songs and him doing the Any Heartbreak tour with New Edition and Bobby at the time.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
um, and I do remember him venturing into acting and stuff like that. He was on Fresh Prince, I think, once, and Quincy came out on the episode with Al Be Sure, and so I do remember the closeness of seeing them on
Yeah.
TV all the time.
So, name some of your inspirations musically.
Hmm. I mean, it starts from the Three Degrees and Delphonics, of course, Michael, Prince, Luther, Will Downing, um, definitely the people that I've been working with and can call friends. Frank McComb is a huge inspiration. For those that don't know who Frank McComb is, I'm going to call him a musical. I'm going to keep it sci-fi, and I'm going to call him a musical cyborg. And it's almost
Mm,
like Frank McComb it's almost like aliens came down to Earth and kidnapped Stevie Wonder and Donny Hathaway, right? And they put them both in different tubes and took every musical ability out of both of them to make one superhuman cyborg. That's Frank McComb.
wow, that's pretty dope.
Yeah, so he can play and sing at the same time. His vocal tone is very close to Donnie, but he also plays like Stevie. Um, he's one of the leading independent artists over the past 25 years that along with like Eric Roberson and a few others that have kind of been doing it on their own. His One of his greatest bodies of work is his 2000 CD called Love Stories. And you have to actually listen to that like a real album or a real CD from start to finish. Don't let it skip around. Don't go to other albums. So just be careful how you listen to it, but treat it like a classic album. And it's just a beautiful body of work. But he's just a brilliant composer. And so to actually go from loving his music to being a friend and now collaborating with him is an amazing experience. So the things I sent him acapellas of the two songs he did on my forthcoming project, and the music he put around them was amazing. So
Wow.
I can't wait for everyone to kind of hear that.
How do you feel about music today, and the trajectory in which it's going?
I I'm excited about the creativity aspect of it, especially in R&B and smooth jazz. Those are the lanes that I believe I'm in, and the lanes that I like. I do wish that some of it got more mainstream credibility, especially on programs like the Grammys or and just in general. Um, it's so much music out there that people don't know and don't hear, and
Yeah.
the consumption of music is at an all time high. I think that that's kind of a downfall because for a while we were in a singles market, and at first I said I wasn't going to ever record a full project like this because I wanted each song to kind of count and be heard.
Right.
Because I working with Will so closely, he puts out an album every year, and 2 weeks later after he drops it, or anybody drops a full project, they're like, "Okay, what else you got?" I just gave you a full 8 to 10 songs. Okay, we heard that, but we want more. So I think the consumption and the just moving so fastly in the world, we're moving so fast we don't take the time to really sit and enjoy things, and so that's one of the downfalls. I think the live performance end is actually kind of tough as well because venues are giving bad deals to for performance, and um, deals are not how they used to be
Yeah.
in terms of you know so it's very hard for the artists to kind of get out there and do their thing. So when you see an artist coming to your town, if you love them, go support them because
Hmm.
they need it.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I miss is instrumentation. I like you. I was in choirs and I actually studied music, and I miss instrumentation. I love musical changes. I love modulations. I love key changes. I love all that. When you have flat tracks, I get bored real fast if you don't keep my attention musically. Um, and I like complication. I've become a fan of you know make my eyes cross a little bit. Make me astounded by the dramatics in the movements. That's what I love. So tracks, flatness. I'm not really drawn to that. Not pooping on hip hop at all, but that genre really doesn't have musically what I need for my excitement.
Yeah, even in some R&B as well, I
Hmm.
would say. I think that
Some of
for
the
me,
R&B, especially, it's probably since the 2000s, it was slowly going in that direction because they were doing more hip hop based sound.
yeah,
So it started going there then, but it still had, intricate musicality, and especially the artists in R&B, they came from that era and they appreciated, instrumentation, so they would incorporate that over the tracks. But now I see it's pretty much, you know, a hip hop game.
I would say it depends on the producer. And for
Hmm.
me, what I look for in producers are more so real musicians, those that can play
Yes,
chords, those that can read, and those that can
yes,
orchestrate. Those that, if we can't afford to have a live musicians on the music, can program the music as if it sounded as live as possible.
right.
Those are the type of people that I work with. So the drum programming is there, and if I give the song to a drummer, we can perform it live. Um, I think people have to when you go into record, you definitely want to make sure that you can perform the music live. I was just
Hmm.
looking at the Luther doc. I've been on this Luther kick since the documentary came out,
Yeah.
and his songs are so fully and well orchestrated
Hmm.
that he was able to perform everything live just as it was on
Hmm.
the record.
Yep.
One of my
So
favorite
true.
songs is and so and because he was the consummate vocalist and had so many vocals on his songs, he traveled with five singers. You only saw three during the dance steps and everything, but he had two sitting on stools with the band. So certain songs like one of my favorites is Give Me the Reason.
Hmm.
He's got the girls doing one thing, but him and the male singer are doing another, doing a whole other,
Hmm.
harmony line. And so he would jump. I've been watching his live shows from that time, of 87, 89, and 93 from his tours in London, because that's where he did all his live concerts videos. I'm
Hmm.
just listening to everything, and so just stay true to the record, but be able to perform what you did live because people kind of come to the shows to hear how it was recorded. That's what made them fall in love with the song. So just be able to kind of duplicate what you did live. Um, in terms of live performance, it's I'm very old school where I definitely, people have a lot of production in their shows. Not saying um, and I'm saying audio wise.
Hmm.
I definitely just want to hear. For me, I like to hear things without tracks in the background.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
I love
nothing like
a live band and consummate vocals. I love that.
yeah.
And Luther was great at that. Great perfection.
Oh, he was perfection. He was perfection. And I think that it's tough seeing a lot of artists now, especially icons. And there's no
Hmm.
shade to their show. I still love their show, but sometimes you may count the people on stage and you hear all this other stuff and it's like, where's that coming from? I don't see the voices moving, and so you want that,
Yeah.
or if an
Yeah.
artist is supposed to be singing one part and they put the mic down and let the audience sing, but you still hear all the audio. It's like,
Yeah.
and again, I'm not shading anyone. I'm not trying to come off like I'm shading anyone. I just miss, and I'm saying this in a general sense, I miss the just live aspect of music. And there are still people
Yeah.
that are playing without click tracks and vocals, but
The thing that
you
I
know,
love best about live performances, and it's this is a testament to whomever the artist is, their musicality. It's the spontaneity that's on stage when the band and the vocalists they find a pocket and you can
yeah,
actually feel it and see it. I love that. Love, 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 love,
yeah,
love.
yeah, it's nothing like it. It's nothing like it.
Who's on your playlist right now?
My playlist consists of Avery Sunshine, Layla
Mhm,
Hathaway, Lettucey, Mesa, Will
mhm,
Downing, Frank McComb, Eric Roberson, Gregory Porter, Kindred the Family Soul, Lady Alma,
mhm,
Jaguar Wright,
mhm,
uh,
mhm.
who else? Who else? Jill Scott, of course, Anthony
Mhm.
Hamilton,
Yeah.
uh, Najee, Phil Perry. Um, I like even going back in the crates a little bit with the neo soul, with the jazzy fat nasties
Yeah.
as well.
That's pretty
But
serious.
that's yeah, and it's still going back in and listening to these Luther records and these Michael records
Yeah.
and Prince and um, Glenn Jones and Tony Terry and just great vocalists.
Yeah.
Um, I'm definitely diving more. I've been wherever I go, I try to find the nearest vinyl shop. So I've been buying a lot of classic vinyl. So I actually
Speaking
found one of my
of
teachers
that,
old.
who is your favorite vinyl shop? Like who is it and where is it?
Okay, so I've been going out to the suburbs a lot. So there's
Hmm.
one in Doylestown. I forget the names of some of these places, but it's one in Doylestown, one in East Norriton on Ridge Pike, right past Egypt Road. There's one in Phoenixville. There's a record shop in Plymouth Meeting Mall.
Hmm.
There's a new black owned record shop right here in my own neighborhood in Mount Airy on the corner of Mount Airy and Germantown Avenue as well.
Mm.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, I'm forgetting names of the places, but I can kind of tell you where to go and you'll find them. There's also in Phoenixville on Main Street, which is their main strip. There's two. One is a CD shop, and then there's a side street. There's actually another black-owned record shop out there as well, and they sell more new vinyl and some classic.
Okay.
But I love going to dig in the crates. So
So there was this place, I don't even know if it's still in existence because I haven't been there in a while, in Georgetown, DC called 12 Inch. There wasn't anything that I couldn't find in there.
that used to be in DuPont Circle, and I think they closed down.
They closed. Wow.
Yeah, they closed.
And then, of
Yeah,
course, Sound to Market, but we know they closed.
Oh my God, I missed that store
I
so
know.
much. And Daryl King, who was the manager there, actually directed most of my videos.
Wow. I was
Yeah. So
going to that store ever since I think I was 15 or 16, and I would like take the train from Jersey over just to buy records. And the
yeah,
last
I,
thing that I ever did in that store, I interviewed Bilal in that store. That was the last time I was there.
classic times. I
Hmm.
remember somebody on on Facebook or Instagram. You get so many videos, and someone shared a video of Prince from 1995 when he became the symbol.
Hmm.
He had the whole symbol thing going on, but it was from the American Music Awards, which happened to be in January of that year, and that's when he performed a few songs from the upcoming, I guess it was the Gold Experience album that he
Hmm.
did.
Hmm.
And the music on that medley was so amazing. And there was one song that he did around that time called I Hate You,
I remember that.
and he performed it on the Music Awards. And I went all the way downtown to Sound and Market the next day and said, "Do you have this music?" And they said, "We don't see anything in the computer about it." Song didn't come out till like 9 months later. And when I
Hmm.
heard it in DC in another town, I went crazy, almost like Al Bundy on that one episode, like, "Oh my goodness, that's the song. That's the song. That's the song." So I went down to the local record store in DC and bought the tape of the single, and I was like, "All right, I'm good now." But yeah, I miss music retail, but
Yeah.
I'm glad that there are still some independent stores out there, and I pray that they continue to thrive. And I always try to find one wherever I go.
You you just now reminded me of a feeling, that feeling that you got when you remember when you were listening to the radio and you heard maybe the bridge on to the end of the song and you knew you liked it and you were
Oh
waiting
yeah,
to hear it again because you wanted to hear it from the beginning. And it may be a whole day into the next day and you would finally hear it again. And then you wanted to hear it more and more. That anticipation and that excitement that you had about hearing your favorite song and it wasn't readily available to you. It created some type of mystery. I think that also was missing. That now everything's at our disposal when we want it, how we want it. We can listen to it whenever we want. I think that mystery and that elusiveness of our music, that aspect, that magic part is gone, and I don't have that same relationship anymore. Not that I'm not excited about music and I don't love it, but that just out of reach, the unobtainableness of it all, it added more adrenaline to the whole situation.
I think as it pertains to new music, that goes into the state of radio right now.
Mm. Hmm.
In terms of the creativity of it, a lot of people don't do bridges on songs anymore. I do, but the bridge was always the climax of the song, and it took you to a different place than the verses and the chorus.
Hmm.
Um, the kings of bridges to me are Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and
Oh my
it's
God.
nothing.
Yes.
It's nothing like the Control album, and
Mhm.
every song on that Janet Control album, the bridge just takes you somewhere different, and it's just amazing. I mean, you'll go from "Let's Wait a While" before to "I didn't really know how to let all my feelings show." I mean, that
I was
change
actually,
alone,
yeah, I was actually
and
thinking about that very subject the other day. And one of the songs, and I don't really care for the song, but I love the bridge. And it's, I forget the group, but it's Whip It. Let's
oh,
whip it right. Let's whip it all night. All night. Yeah.
Jazz
But the
band.
bridge to that song, I absolutely love. Like every time it gets to the bridge and the tempo changes and
Which
it's
one
like a
to
completely different song. Yeah.
lose? Da, 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 da. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
song.
Yeah.
That's a great song. But I mean, that whole Control album is still an inspiration. Even like "What Have You Done for Me Lately?"
Mhm.
I never asked for more than I deserve. That's my
Yeah.
favorite part of the whole song right
And
there.
I love behind the story, behind the scenes of certain things, and they went on record saying that that particular song was for a project that they were going to do for the time,
I saw
and,
that recently.
and that song itself was the bridge, and they created a new bridge for the bridge that they made, the main
Yeah,
melody. So interesting.
I remember.
They are probably like my favorite producers ever.
I mean, for me, between them and Gamble and Huff, and I have
Mm,
to add Tom Bell as a part of,
mhm.
because
Yeah.
it's really Gamble, Huff, and Bell. But
Yeah.
Tom Bell, he passed away last year or a year and a half ago, and I was speaking with another classic soul artist, Gerald Austin from the Manhattans, and he said if Tom Bell came out of retirement, he would get all his savings and give it to him just to make a song. And I would have had to agree because Tom Bell was, for those that don't know, Tom Bell was the co-writer with William Hart of the Delphonics for all the Delphonic stuff. So La La Means I Love You did not blow your mind this time. But then he moved to the Stylistics. So when you think about, and the Stylistics are one of my favorite Philly groups or just one of my favorite groups of all time.
Mhm.
And Russell Tompkins is probably my most favorite falsetto singer of all time.
Mm.
So when you think about Betcha by Golly Wow, You Are Everything, You Make Me Feel Brand New, Break Up to Make Up, People Make the World Go Round, Stone in Love with You, and my favorite one is Yours Right as Rain. It's just pretty music. So Tom
Yep.
Bell is one of my all time favorite producers. But I would say Gamble Huff and Bell, Jam and Lewis, can't forget about L.A. Reid and
There
Babyface.
you
And if I'm more
go.
contemporary, I love Carvin and Ivan,
Hmm.
Dre and Vidal, the Philly folks, James Poyser, and
Yeah.
I think Neo is brilliant as well.
Yes.
I love his stuff.
Yeah. Wow. So one of the things that I do for my guests, or with my
Okay,
guests, not for, is to get them to manifest something for themselves,
okay.
and um, we've been getting great results from that, by the way. So I'm going to ask you, Mr. Ashley Scott, what is your manifestation?
To have a successful timeless project, as well as a successful debut in Atlanta this year in September.
Okay. All right. The universe receives it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So what's coming up for you? Are you performing anywhere soon, or
Yeah,
any dates?
I'm closing on some things here in Philly for June. I'll be making, I guess, like I said a few seconds ago, I'll be making my debut in Atlanta on Sunday, September 21st. Looking forward to working with some friends down there on a show and doing a full set there as well at St. James Live. So that's a very prominent venue in Atlanta. Um, and just prayerfully going overseas, which is where my everyday goal and a prayer is, because a lot of my music thus far previously has done well in England. So I'm actually in talks with some folks to to do some things over there as well. But and just more collaboration. I actually do, and another manifestation is recording a Christmas song for this year as well.
Yes, I want that for you.
Thank,
And congrats on the new single.
thank,
It's a wonderful piece of art, and I want it to do well for you because it's nothing like it has a very classic sound.
yeah,
And again, like I said, I love instrumentation, and it transports me to a time, and I thoroughly appreciate you as a person and as an artist.
thank,
You've always been cool with me.
thank Thank you, sir. And likewise, and that was the intention on creating the song "Beautifully Made." I need to tap into a classic jazz vibe, so it doesn't sound like anything that would be recorded in today's times. It definitely sounds like it's a swing, so it
Hmm.
definitely sounds like it was done in the 1950s.
Yeah. Tell everybody where they can follow you and find you.
So my website is ashleyscottmusic.com. All the music and information that you need is right there. You can follow me here on Instagram at Ashley Scott 3. And on Facebook, it's I am Ashley Scott. And on TikTok, it is Ashley Scott Music. And I'm posting everywhere. I'm on LinkedIn as well. So you'll find me somewhere. But everything is at ashleyscottmusic.com.
Ashley Scott, brother, I appreciate
Thank
you. And
you.
thank you for accepting my invite. I normally handpick my guests. I seek you out. You know, I know you and I had talked a while ago about me having you on, but I don't know what happened in scheduling and stuff, because I wanted to do it sooner, but I guess it happened when it was supposed to happen. I
Right.
think
This is
this
the
is
right time.
perfect timing. Yeah,
Very perfect time.
yeah. I appreciate you, brother, and God
Thanks,
bless.
brother. God bless. Thank you.
All right.
Good night.